No justice, no poetry. Poetics does not stand outside poetry, commenting on it or telling it what to do. It arises in the acts of reading or writing poetry. The act of a reader imagining a poetry this poem makes possible, or the act of a writer's loosened grasp of a situation that makes a poem possible. As we look at a situation and respond with a poem, we embrace the possibilities suggested by the medium and its history, and how they meet the moment in history that we face. Any time we look at a poem, we engage a poetics. To get a poem, we have to imagine a poetics for it. We see what it was trying for, what the writer was trying to do in that situation. When we study histories of poetries as contexts for works, we cannot restore all the possibilities facing the poets, but can imagine them through any poem and this sense of poetics. Reading is the act that directs us to learn poetics. We ask, how do I read this? Or, what is this poem asking my mind to do? And get our answers from doing that implied to do in a consciously reflective way, where we discover some poetics rather than simply being told about them, though such hearing can be helpful to the process too. Poetic statements are usually unfortunately anxious explanations, purposeful predictions, or predications desiring to guide us. It seems obvious to say this, but where it is inscribed with performativity, like in Ron Silliman's reading all of Ketchak aloud on the street, or in Bob Grenier's scrawl of transpiration transpiring, it stands out that any act remarkable in writing or reading of writing insists poetics is action, not just the goods we get in the new sentence or Scalapino's helpful old book box notes. Poetics is instead composed of moments, momentous possibilities realized. Analogous in some ways to an effective martial arts approach, this sense of poetics is not the training, not the blow, not the defeating of an aggression, not the art of knowing how to unfoot the aggressor, or even the idea of doing so. It is the seeing in the moment what is called for by the situation, and engaging it through the big view that can embrace the situation whole. Poetics is the other art in the art of poetry, if one is serious about it and about having its fun. So when I, for instance, noticed Facebook set up for posting a photo and saying something about it, I felt the potential fun of being given the chance to engage a poetic shaping in which a photo and a poem appeared within that linkage, but without following the expected sense of illustration. And so I wrote and posted 33 works on Facebook and simultaneously composed post language on blog post as something called a blog book that could also include reflection on that sense of poetics even as the poems unfolded it. Even as we struggle to catch up to Pound stumbling into his poem including history or Hilda Doolittle into hers, the serious humors of the momentary and momentous forms found or founded in situ by Rukeyser or Nidecker, Neruda or Mistral, Mackie or Moten or Miyazawa or Merwin, Spar or Luoma or Farmer or Transtromer or Hyginian, show that what impinges and protrudes from those moments ever since Pound's epic monstrosity is the fundamental idea that there has been no poem that does not include history one way or another, and while this obvious gets obviouser, work will appear like Stephanie Young's Ursula or University, a poem she calls prose that speaks directly from and to the politics of conferences on poetics set in our time, and because where it ends is inside poetry, we will have to ask, is this the glove turned inside out with which we will slap ourselves into a fresh challenge, or something we will let conferences tame for us by holding out a chair for it to bite on while we keep it in its place with tongues that whip the air? First, I thought I would pull it all down. That would be one way. And then I thought I would just leave. That would be another. But to hang in there, To pull it down by leaving it up and use it up by exposing the emptinesses right in its place in what we do, to help that maybe be seen, heard, felt, known, whatever, that would be not just poetry. That might be just.